hold down? Can I do this?
I broke it up.
Can't you came up with a space that you just described? What did you see from him? What it is that he does so well and make quarterbacks in a place like that?
Yeah, obviously it was an incredible play. We needed it. 17-play drive to cap it off with a 100-yard touchdown going the other way. It was really, really impressive. I mean, he just has such a knack of timing, right? So much of being a ball hawk is understanding how to use that vision on the quarterback and showing up at the right place at the right time. And he's had that from day one, and it's really exciting. Set the school record, right? Luckily, I've got to see the 99 and the 100. But really cool just to see him grow as a leader, become more vocal. He's got such strong leaders ahead of him, and now he realizes it's his time to be that guy, and really cool to see a guy kind of have that growth throughout his career.
How have you seen him kind of show that leadership, whether it be during the off-season or now these last couple of weeks?
To me, the number one thing is just in the meeting rooms, at the walkthrough, stuff like that. He's so much more vocal than he was. Those other guys were such strong communicators, and he just was able to just kind of sit back and maybe hit guys more on a one-on-one basis. But he's much more vocal, kind of day in and day out with the group, making sure the energy's there, the attention to detail is there, and then just seeing him work. I thought his focus, kind of his intensity going into this year was at a different level than it's been in the past. Not that it was bad before, but you just see that urgency, as guys get older, and it's fun to see him kind of grow and become more confident.
Do you recall what your message was to him when he was being recruited here? Because he got a bunch of offers, he got a Cal offer. What did you say to him about coming here and turning down one of those offers?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, family and himself, they knew a lot about UW with his sister going to school here, so really didn't have to sell the school, the education, anything like that. It was just what's the opportunity. Obviously, with the walk-on program, I can speak on that pretty well, and just how I saw him fitting, how his skill set and kind of football IQ from offense to defense, the things he was asked to do in high school and was really good at, I think was really intriguing to him, how he was going to be used in this defense, and he's been that for a long time. He's been on the field for a number of years, and maybe a little nervous early, about 2019 or whatever, when he started getting out there, but really from the first game against Northwestern, I think 2019, he comes in, has a big, huge hit, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, the moment's not too big for him. He's going to go in there and have a lot of success.
It's one thing if Wisconsin turns down scholarships to walk on here, but when a guy from California gets it, it's more surprising. There's a background here.
Yeah, I mean, you're always a little surprised. I mean, the family dynamics and all that stuff plays into it, but for his parents really to trust him to bet on himself, essentially, right, and go out there and earn it and prove it. And most people aren't in the situation to be able to do that if they have offers and have the possibility of getting money. So you really kind of give it up to his family, and for him to have that conviction to bet on himself and say, this is the defense and this is the place I want to be at, and I'll make it work. It takes a lot of guts, and very appreciative for that.
He has about as many interceptions as he does starts so far in his career. Is that nose for the ball? Was that something that was apparent from the start, or how did he kind of develop that?
Well, it sounds like his coach sucks if he's not playing him more than that. But yeah, he has that knack for the football. I mean, I tell people a lot, like every time he's staring at the quarterback, it's usually a good rep for him. Like, he's a guy that just understands the spacing and the timing of route concepts and kind of where he has to be and when he has to get there. It's hard to teach, and he just has that knack, and you try to find ways to get him in positions to play off of the quarterback, and we've built in more and more things throughout the years for guys like that, and it was huge for us last year, and obviously starting out the box this year as well.
That was first steps in special teams on defense. They've talked about special teams over the last few years, but what has stood out about his ability to come in and turn an opportunity to play right? What is the skill of special teams?
Yeah, I mean, he's a focused kid, very mature and focused, and he wants to do things right. very, very talented, very athletic. He can fly, great size and speed, and still learning some of the nuances of our defense, but see ball, get ball. He's really good at that. And first rep, it's good to see him just go run the alley and put a big hit on a guy. I mean, that's what he feels really, really comfortable with. You add the special teams element to that, he's going to continue to grow within this defense as the season goes along and get more comfortable. But from a physical standpoint, it's pretty impressive the way he can cover ground and kind of his willingness and ability to tackle out in space.
When we talked to you last week before the game, you talked about your punt returners being more aggressive. It looked like you tried to do that. I know he lost some yardage on that one. What did you see in general? Not a lot of chances, but what did you see from him? Decision making and how he wanted to be more aggressive.
Yeah, we want to be aggressive back there. We want to make plays. We have to be smart. I think he forced the last one a little bit. Maybe trying to create something that really wasn't there, and a lot of times that comes from the fact you go an entire game and opportunity hasn't come. I think if he catches the first one a little bit cleaner, kind of ran in on it aggressively and it drifted on him. I think if he catches it cleaner, he's in a good spot to let that athleticism come out. He's done an incredible job throughout camp, just being consistent with it and kind of trusting, really working on how he's catching the ball and where his eyes go after he catches it. I'm expecting him to continue to improve. One, I think if he catches a little bit differently, it's a different story. And then the last one, I thought he forced it a little bit.
Another thing is, back in the day, the general rule was for returners, put your heels on the 10, it's over your head, let it go. Has that changed in recent years because of guys being able to check it up sometimes inside the 5?
Yeah, those guys are so much better as far as downing the ball inside of the 10. Most people has moved that back to that 8. Is an 8 in a step. Like the way that these guys can hang it with the Aussie influence and stuff like that, the ball lands a lot softer than it used to. So we've kind of moved it back to that 8-7 yard line. If it's a punt where it's pretty good hang time, you can usually rely on those not checking into the end zone. Obviously, if it's either more of a line drive, sometimes you get that gray area where it's not quite a plus 50, drop it in there punt. Or if they just hit a rocket, sometimes you can feel the tempo difference of it and kind of let those hit the ground. But yeah, you have to tweak the rules a little bit the last 5 to 10 years, and you guys are getting a lot more consistent with it.
This Cedric, you mentioned last week he hadn't played a lot in the nickel spot before. What did you see out of him on Saturday, and what was really his first start there?
Yeah, really pleased with what he did. There were some nerves. It's funny, you see some of these older guys coming in here. It's new environment, new defense, new guys, right? The stadium is different, and I think our guys were a little bit nervous going in. They want to make a great first impression in a role that he really hasn't been in very often, and played a great game. Really did. There's a couple decisions I think he'd like to have back, but he gets his hands on the ball early. I know there ended up being a penalty on the play, but I think he's becoming more comfortable in that role and excited about it. It's kind of what's the game plan this week type of mentality, and what do these different calls mean for me? How can I kind of play around with my disguise and stuff like that? So excited, for him to continue to grow in that role throughout the season. He'll play on the outside as well, more than he did week 1, but excited to see what we can do with him in the slot.
I know you're focused on the season in the back. There's an elected that's been one for Wisconsin, and collecting that stuff. So I'm just as a coach here, how valuable is Wisconsin being involved in that? What do you think that means for the future of football program and athletics in general?
That's the new landscape of college football. I mean, you're going to have to compete in that space somehow. Doesn't mean, as Wisconsin in most things, like I don't think we see ourselves having to be the leaders in those areas, right? We do have the education, we have the city, we have the culture, we have a lot of things going for us. I don't feel like in anything, whether it's facilities, kind of what we sell these kids, we feel like we have to be number one and all that, but you got to compete. And it's just exciting for me being a former player, and obviously with my situation, being a walk-on and having success before I was on scholarship, you kind of think of what could have happened in my case or in other players that who've come through here. I mean, it's exciting. It's something I don't spend too much time on, but it's a big deal across the country, and I'm glad to see Wisconsin getting in the race and finding ways to be competitive and reward players for the work and the time that they put in.
When we talked to Paul on Monday, he was asked about Alexander Smith and Clark, and he said we need to see them in practice, especially Clark, for 2 good days. Can you share what you saw from those guys the last couple of days of practice? And do you anticipate they'll be ready to go?
Yeah, hoping so. I mean, those are tricky injuries. Hamstrings for guys who got to hit 20, 21, 22 miles an hour. It's always difficult. You're going to be smart. I mean, so much of it just comes to communication with you and them. How does it feel? Can you let it go? Because as a defensive back, if you're thinking about it, it's not ready. You know, you have to be able to play free and just react. And that's the hardest thing to simulate in a training setting, is that the reactionary style of what we have to do. If you're guarding that at all, you're going to get hurt again. So a lot of it is getting them in that practice setting. And how'd you feel? Oh, I had to think about this. Well, okay, you're not quite there yet. You have to get past that point. So it truly is day to day as far as those guys. You know, they're close. Hopefully we'll have them available on game day, but it's a little bit too early in the week to tell.
You've got depth at safety now that Hunter's injured, but it's really 4 guys that haven't been around and been out there where the bullets are flying with your defense. What is your comfort level to give these guys extended snaps and eventually one of them probably move into a full-time role as a starter here?
Yeah, obviously tough to lose Hunter to an injury. Not quite sure how long. It's going to be a little bit. He just was so consistent for us, really going back to the spring and the summer through fall camp and even in week 1. So it's going to be a little bit by committee. It's great competition. These guys have been getting after it all camp, and I think it's close enough that they're both going to play. They're both going to have their roles and split that job a little bit, take a little bit of load off of them. And some of the young guys you mentioned in Austin Brown and Titus Toller, guys like that who are right on that brink too of pushing into the 2 deep. Well, now they're going to be right on the edge, and I love to play guys. I love guys to get on the field and have a role within the game plan, and it's just finding out what's going to be the best one for each of those guys and kind of play them around Torch, who we know is really consistent in his role.
And then with Muma, how did you just grade his first start, and what was it like just to see him kind of complete that comeback after everything he went through the last 2 years?
Yeah, I thought he did a great job. He took his technique from practice into games, which sometimes with guys with little experience, game experience, they struggle with that. And he flew around, man. He was disruptive. He tackled well. There's plenty of little things. We did a great job. Obviously, we get the shutout, we get some turnovers, we get some production in the backfield, whether it's sacks or TFLs. So much stuff to clean up. It still looked like a week 1. We know it wasn't as clean as it needs to be as the competition level rises throughout the course of the season. But I think we did learn a lot about our guys. And the number one thing that I hit on our staff and our players is just, what was your technique, right? What was your pad level, right? Did you get tired? Like, you're really over critiquing all this stuff early in the season just to get guys to focus on kind of the process of it and how you got there, not necessarily just the results.
When you look at Watson on tape, how does he look, and how has he maybe changed since he was over here for you guys?
Yeah, to me, I think he's a little lighter. I think he's a little more explosive than he was here. He did a great job last week. He lost